He built everything from the ground up. The late nights, the endless struggles, the sacrifices no one ever saw. His name was carved into the very foundation of success. But on this day, when he walked into a place that carried his signature, he was treated like a stranger, like he did not belong. What unfolded inside those glass doors was more than just humiliation. It was a revelation of how deep prejudice still runs. And when the truth came out, it was not just about him, it was about every person who has ever been told they do not belong in a world they helped create. Marcus Brown was not just another businessman. He was a symbol of perseverance, a man who rose from the edges of poverty to become one of the most respected black CEOs in the financial world. His company, a national chain of investment firms, had been praised for transforming local communities, creating jobs, and giving countless young entrepreneurs a chance to dream bigger. For Marcus, the bank he owned was not just about money. It was about proof that someone like him could rise to the top of a world that often closed its doors to people of his color. Every brick in that building told a story of battles fought and victories earned. On this particular afternoon, he decided to make an unannounced visit to one of his branches. It was a small, yet thriving location, a symbol of the future he wanted to build. He walked in, dressed in a simple suit, not seeking recognition but respect. The employees did not immediately recognize him. After all, he was often busy with corporate-level decisions. But Marcus did not mind. What mattered was the culture he had worked so hard to create, one of inclusion, dignity, and fairness. Yet in the very institution that carried his name, a storm was about to break. One that would remind him, and everyone watching, that no amount of titles or wealth could fully shield a black man from the weight of prejudice. The branch was busy that day, filled with customers waiting to cash checks, open accounts, and speak with advisors. Marcus took a quiet seat near the counter, observing the energy, proud of what he had built. But when his turn came, everything shifted. He approached the desk with calm confidence, handing over his ID and explaining that he wanted to make a withdrawal. The manager on duty, a middle-aged man with pressed sleeves and a hardened stare, scanned his ID with skepticism. His eyes lingered too long. His tone sharpened in a way that carried no professionalism. "Are you sure this is your account?" the manager asked, his voice low but edged with suspicion. He glanced around, as though waiting for someone to confirm his doubts. Marcus nodded, unfazed at first. He had been questioned before, countless times in boardrooms, conferences, and interviews. But here, in his own bank, it struck differently. Instead of processing the request, the manager called over another employee, whispering just loud enough for nearby customers to hear. The whispers turned into stares. A few people shifted uncomfortably, watching the scene unfold. Marcus stood there, holding his composure, but inside he felt a familiar sting. The sting of being judged not by his achievements, but by the color of his skin. Minutes dragged into humiliation. The manager refused to process the withdrawal, insisting on additional verification. Papers were shuffled. Calls were made. At one point, security was signaled, as though Marcus were an intruder. The irony was bitter. His name was on the ownership documents of this very branch. His vision had given this place life, yet in that moment he was reduced to suspicion, to someone unworthy of trust. The tension in the room was palpable. Customers began whispering, some filming discreetly, sensing that something deeply wrong was happening. Each second stretched the weight of injustice heavier on Marcus's shoulders. He could have shouted, could have revealed his position immediately, but he did not. He wanted to see just how far prejudice would go when it believed it had the upper hand. And it went far. Too far. The breaking point came when the manager, now visibly irritated, raised his voice loud enough for the entire lobby to hear. He accused Marcus of attempting fraud, his words cutting through the quiet murmurs like a blade. Gasps echoed. Phones lifted higher. The atmosphere shifted from quiet discomfort to collective outrage. Marcus stood frozen, not from fear, but from the weight of what this moment represented. He had lived through countless barriers, but never had he been stripped of his dignity so openly, in a place that should have symbolized his triumph. As the accusations grew louder, one of the younger employees, trembling with unease, slipped into the back office. Minutes later, the regional director of the bank stormed through the doors, her eyes darting from the crowd to Marcus, and then to the manager. The room seemed to hold its breath. And then, with one firm sentence, the balance of power shifted. "This man is not only our client," she said, her voice sharp with authority. "He is the owner of this bank." The silence was electric. The manager's face drained of color, his mouth opening but no words forming. The employees looked stunned. Customers leaned forward, eyes wide, recording every second. In that instant, the humiliation flipped back on the man who had caused it. The whispers became gasps of recognition. The weight of injustice that Marcus had carried was now replaced with the sting of accountability landing on the guilty. And as the director's words sank in, the manager's fate was sealed. The manager was fired on the spot. No appeals, no second chances. The prejudice that had poisoned the very heart of the branch had no place in an institution meant to serve everyone with equality. For Marcus, the vindication was bittersweet. Justice had been served in that moment, but the pain of what he endured lingered. The humiliation, the suspicion, the disbelief in his legitimacy, those scars would not vanish with a single firing. Yet the incident carried a message far beyond that bank's walls. The videos recorded by bystanders went viral, sparking national conversations about how racism persists in spaces that claim progress. Marcus himself became a reluctant symbol of that truth, that no amount of wealth, power, or titles can fully erase the barriers placed on Black lives. He walked out of that branch with his head high, but his heart heavy. Heavy with the knowledge that his story was not unique, that countless others without his platform or influence endured the same treatment daily, often without witnesses, without justice, without resolution. The world may have seen his story, but how many more go unseen? How many more times must this cycle repeat before dignity is given freely, without condition, without question? And so the question remains, what does it take for a society to truly change, not just in its policies, but in its perception of humanity?